Hey guys, this is Sean McGarry coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the music salon where great things happen. Hope everyone's doing awesome out there. Got a fun lesson today, man. We're going to talk about major pentatonic phrasing and whoever knows what else we'll get into. A couple things before we get into it, man. Thank you for all the beautiful and kind remarks from my last lesson regarding my buddy Mark who passed away. Really appreciate that. And a couple fun things here I just want to talk about. I just finished last weekend. I do this thing every year called Camp Rockstar at the music salon, my music school here in Cincinnati, and it's a group of guys, adults, and none of them are professionals or playing bands. And we do like an 8-week course, and they train, and we put a 2-hour show together this year, and it was awesome. And they named themselves 8 Men Out. There's 8 guys, and ironically, one of the guys got a hernia, so they were 7 men out when the show came. But check this little thing out they got me, man. I thought this was so freaking cool, man. This really meant a lot to me. Sean McGarry, thank you for forming us into a band, Camp Rockstar 2025. Thank you, guys. You rock. I can't wait to do it again next year. It happens right here in Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the music salon. And, man, that meant a lot to me just getting that. It's so cool to, I've been doing this my whole life, and just to watch people get up on stage and play and perform. It's a really cool experience. That's why we do it, man. So let's dive into today's lesson. Kind of an R&B feel with this major pentatonic thing. I was playing over this little loop. I was going. E minor, A major, D major 7, and B minor 7. Okay? And, the feel, and I want to go over some kind of cool ideas here for phrasing today. This is really what this is about, is how to phrase using some tricks of the trade, right? So I started off with some double stops. So I'm going to show you a little exercise here just to jump out of the gate here using double stops. So if I'm in the key of D, let me just kind of play it. I'm going to jump back and forth in my loop today. I don't know what the level's like, but we'll deal with it, right? So this first little lick I'm going to do goes. And you can phrase it any way you want. And another thing, a theme of today's lesson is going to be connecting all these ideas with chords and triads. Okay, that is kind of the major thing here. So I'm looking at right now when I play this first riff, we're in the key of D major, right? And here's another good thing to talk about. A lot of people figuring out keys, it's a hard thing to do. This is why you got to know your theory. This is why you got to keep watching my videos. You got to subscribe to my Patreon channel. It's $10 a month for a free, a free lesson, a bonus lesson with materials. And I go into a lot of the stuff in these lessons that I don't go on here just because it's too time consuming. But you got to know stuff like, okay, when you're trying to solo, and again, I'm not going to go too crazy deep here, but like it's not the first chord you're playing. And I always tell people, just because if you don't know any theory and somebody says, how do you figure out what key you're in? I just say, just guess the first chord. Now, that's not always right because look, what's the first chord of this progression? E minor. Well, watch this. If I don't know any theory, and I go like this. Right? You'll make that face because it's not right. So it's actually in D. It's because it starts on the minor 2, okay, which is the second note E. And again, I'm not going to get too deep in this rabbit hole. It just really starts off like a 2-5-1. So it's really, again, without trying to get into too much theory, it's a 2-5-1 minor 6, okay? But if you don't know that, you're not going to know what key you're in. So we're in a key of D major, and you know that because I'm telling you right now. So let's just stick with that bit of information for now. And, you can play the whole major scale, which we'll get into. But really the sound over this kind of vibe is more major pentatonic, okay? More of this sound. That kind of feel. So this first lick I was looking at was D major right here, old-fashioned D, as easy as it gets. And then I'm looking at this. So how do we get up here all the way up the neck? That's another question I get a lot from players is, how do these guys get up the neck? Well, it's using these little exercises I'm going to show you. So here I'm playing the third. Nice little riff, look at that. Thirds and fourths, okay, these are just harmonies. And all that means is I'm 3 notes away from each other in the scale. So if I play a D chord, well, if you don't know any theory, I tell people this, look, man, you want to know the theory, but even if you don't, look at this. Here's your information. Wherever you play a D shape, your harmony is right here. It's those last two strings, those last two notes. So we don't need this guy, so I can ditch this note and just go, I'll swap my fingerings out. Look at that, that next, you can always equate it to a chord shape, look. D, D. So on top of this D bar chord is these little fourths. Right? Then look at this. Those other two I did were off this shape, look. So I'm gonna break the chords down now, look. D here, D here, D here, and D here. And I play the little harmonies underneath each chord shape. I could do that all day long. I love that sound, and it sounds beautiful over something, you know, in this chord progression. If I just do it again, I'll go. You'll want to lead into somewhere else. But that's the first thing I wanted to show you is like that little lick. Now another thing I'll do with that is you can make little phrases off. There's the key to this stuff. I get excited here. I gotta calm down, man. I haven't had enough coffee, or maybe I've had too much for my 8 Men Out mug. Very cool stuff. But this is why I like teaching, and this is why I like showing people stuff, because the only thing limiting you right now, if you're watching this video, is your imagination. Okay, you can get on a million YouTube channels. I don't care if it's me or whoever, you know, Guthrie Govan, you know, or whoever, one of, you know, just, you know, some crazy monster guitar player. And they can show you something super technical or something super easy. And the only thing limiting you is the way you approach these ideas. Okay, you don't have to do it the way anybody shows you. You internalize it and you do what makes sense to you. So if I have these two notes, don't just say, okay, well, Sean, show me these notes. Next, what's up? Next video. No, stay there for a bit. Get creative with this. I can make little licks out of this. Right? Arpeggiate it, man. You can do all kinds of stuff. Go in different arrangements, you know. You can make all kinds of cool sounds. So like, it's a simple idea, but it sounds cool. And we're just processing stuff we just learned. So check it out. I'll play like a little line now using this little lick, you know. It's kind of cool, you know, it's just got a vibe to it, right? So, and all I did was I just played around with the notes from those little triads, those little chords, not triads, little harmony chords. And there's like little patterns inside here. Look, when I play these, look at these little boxes. Here's another box. So really, I mean, we might even just stay here today. We never even leave this idea because we could go for hours with all this stuff, but check it out. So now I'm going to take these little boxes here. You get the idea, right? So you can play around with that all day long and just never run out of ideas. It's pretty cool. Now, you know, and another idea I like to do is force myself to stay in this box. Because when I was playing right here, I was really wanting to resolve that. My ear really wanted to land on a D chord, but it's cool you don't, okay? It's nice to resolve on different notes. So if, like, here's another idea for phrasing. If you're playing in D major, let's look at the D major scale. Well, the second note of the D major scale is E, okay? So that's and that's the minor second. That's going to give a cool sound. Let's talk about this for a second. So I'm going to locate my root all over the neck. Root, minor second. Okay, and kind of use that for phrasing. So that minor second is a strong note. Check it out. Not really a resolved note, you know what I mean? You can, but it's not the ideal resolved note, but it's kind of cool and it gives a little bit of tension. So that's the idea too. Is like when you're phrasing, is you can put a little tension in. So that's one idea. I'm just going to give you some outside of the standard thinking ideas today. So really, what I like to play over this, and you're going to hear a lot, especially like in R&B and whatever country blues, is the major pentatonic, which from this position. Up here. So we want to know that major pentatonic all over the neck. And, I'll probably have some patterns and stuff for that on my Patreon page, all these different positions. But just follow along the best you can for now with this video. But what I want to show you here is, for whatever reason, maybe somebody can explain this better because I sure can't. Just like the minor pentatonic, when you take out certain notes, it creates a little less tension, I guess, or, makes things easier to play over chord progressions. Some of those notes that might clash over common chord progressions. At least that's the way I think about it. Somebody will probably correct me. But when I play the major pentatonic, and there's really no bad notes in this, by the way. Here's their scale again. Check it out. That's all the major scale, but let's look at the notes we removed and focus on that. So here's a cool idea. We took out the 4th and 7th to make that a major pentatonic. Okay, so if I play 1, 2, 3, 4, he's out of here. That's a G note. 1, 2, 3, get the G out of here. 5, 6, we take out the major 7, which is a really nice note. When I play that, we want that, we'll get back to that later, but the major 7 is a very nice thing, especially when you got a major 7 in the chord progression. But for now, we said we're going to remove it because it's not in the major pentatonic, so it's out of here. So what I always do, and this is just something I stumbled upon early on in my playing, well, what if I put these notes together that we removed and it comes up with a cool sound? So here's the 4th. Like a little tritone, I guess you could think of it like that, or however you want to think of it, but it's just this little... So by itself, it sounds kind of weird. 4 and 7, right? But there's your resolve. Check it out, It's got a kind of a neat sound to it, but listen when you arpeggiate it and make a riff out of it. So I'm going to start this phrase now on the 4th that we took out of the major pentatonic to the major 7, which we took out, and resolve on the root. And then look at this. Well, I talked about this a few seconds ago. There's the minor second. So now you can focus on these notes for phrasing. So check it out. So again, this is how you make phrases. This is how I come up with ideas when the well runs dry, which it does it often for me. You gotta dig deep down. You gotta find ways to find creativity. Okay, nobody's gonna find it for you when you're improvising. Nobody's gonna make you a better player. You can watch videos. You can do all kinds of stuff. Obviously, listening to music, but sometimes you just have to dig deep down and think about things. You can almost look on a piece of paper. It's kind of mechanical sounding. And look at notes and arrange them. I used to do that too. I would take chords and scales and just pick certain notes and just try things before I even knew what the hell I was doing. And sometimes you strike gold and sometimes you don't. But it's like, how do you get better at things? You explore. I mean, that's what in anything in life the more you explore things and dig into it, that's what makes you great. So that's my Tony Robbins speech of the day. But I love that idea, man. Now let's look at that major 7. Here's another idea for phrasing. So if I'm up here, here's a major 7. Well, here's my major 7 arpeggio. What a beautiful sound, right? Okay, here it is up here. Here it is here. So, always know, I like the rule of 3s. Everything you do it in 3s, okay? If you play an arpeggio or a scale, do it in 3 positions. If you do a chord, know it in 3 positions. If you know a arpeggio, do it in 3 positions. Just make that from here on out, that you'll do that with everything you learn on the guitar, okay? So just do it in 3. So here's position 1. Here's position 2. Here's position 3. Okay, and then you look at that 7th around the chord shape. So like here's my D. And then you can kind of look at it again, if you just physically look at it, well, I can focus that note like. So that, that C sharp, or that D flat, however you want to think of it, is kind of a note we're going to target, right? So if I'm playing. Here's those boxes. So that was just trying to, play some phrasing and then make sure I hit that C sharp or the full arpeggio. So that's another great idea, and you can't go wrong with the major 7. That's just always a beautiful sound. Couple more ideas here. So like if I'm playing this, and I always want to talk about this. So we really focused so far in this lesson on the major pentatonic, and then you always want to throw in the relative minor. That's really the same sound, but it gives it a different feel. So when I play this major pentatonic from here, check it out. Well, you kind of intersect with the minor, the relative minor. So if we look at the chord progression, the information's already in this. So if I go, so there's my minor, my relative minors right there. So it's always the 6th degree of the scale, right? So in this case, it's B minor. And, I just always, to make it simple, I play the minor pentatonic to get rid of those notes that might clash, okay? So we'll say we're going to play the minor pentatonic. Well, that's right here, obviously, right? So that kind of intersects when I'm playing here. So the way I want you to think about this is you start here on D, and when I get right here, well, then you're inside of your minor pentatonic box. So you may already know that, but if you don't, think of it like that. So here's your D major. Okay, or try this. Start D major, go. Even though it's the same notes, it's a different feel, different sound. And again, this is all about the phrasing. This is the title of this video. It's phrasing. So this is how you get out of these boxes, that we all get into. And there's nothing wrong with that, but sometimes you just got to get out of your house for a bit, right? So here, I'm going to call it out, major pentatonic. Now minor pentatonic. Back to major. So major. Minor pentatonic. Back to major. Minor. And you might be saying, dude, it's the same thing. Well, I know that, but again, just if you think of it differently, it's going to create different phrasing. This I promise. So there's some ideas for you, and I want to follow one more thing up with that. So you need to find these all over the neck, though, the rule of 3. So if I just did it here, find somewhere else and do that. Okay, I'm not going to show you, so that's your homework. Find 2 other positions to do that little riff, using the major pentatonic, intersecting with the minor pentatonic. and that's your sound. So I'm going to continue on this because I really like this topic, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about, and I'll probably have something on my Patreon page this weekend, a little more detail, probably break down a solo or something. But I hope this helps you out because this is really good stuff, and it helps me out for phrasing. So again, thank you for your support. Please, if you got something out of this video, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and please consider signing up for my Patreon page. It helps me and the channel out. Got an exciting Rhythm of Life, hopefully out in the next couple days. And thanks again, guys. Have an awesome day.